All right, so we are back, and my mic works now finally. So we are still in Red Ghost Gate next to Red Mountain, and we're going to do a few things. I was walking around trying to sell our extravagant robes because they're not as good as exquisite, but it doesn't seem like there's a clothier, a person to buy our clothes in Ghostgate, so we're going to have to go to a more developed urbane region. But in the meantime, I was thinking about picking up some restore spells just to round out the things that we have. Restore endurance might be really useful for us because if our endurance ever gets damaged, we might not be able to carry all the things that we have, which is very bad for us. And anything that affects our inventory management in the Elder Scrolls series is pretty hard to swallow. So let's go check to make sure we don't have any restore endurance effects already. And then we could pick up this one. Make ourselves better at restoration and kind of eliminate our need to go back to a town or hit a tribunal shrine in order to get restored. So yeah, make ourselves a better healer. The other thing is, it is really hard to manage all of these spell effects, and a lot of online people have basically advised naming spell effects different things. But I'm trying to use all of the natural spells that the game came with and create very few spells of my own. So I think it's a problem that I'm not sure how to deal with on stream, because I don't want my stream to be very boring, which is just, doing what we're doing right now, which is looking through a very long spell list every time that we want to cast a spell or interact with spells in any way. But I don't really know a way around that. I've heard of several players just completely restarting their game because they bought too many spells and they're sick of looking through the spell list. I don't necessarily want to do that because part of our character is having a lot of spells and making a big spell list. Just kind of thought that it would be easier to sort through eventually. I've also been trying to edit some of the previous videos. Yep. Damage endurance. I wish I could split them up into their different classes, their different schools, instead of being arranged alphabetically. And I know that I can delete spells. I think it's shift-click. I'm not sure how wise that would be for us as we get stronger at spell casting. Some of these spells might not be as useful to us, but it still might be worth saving the magicka to cast a lower level spell. Ash Spirit is pretty nice. Gotta remember that we even have the ability to do lots of these. Like this one. Earth Heal. We're saving 3 magic points. I don't know. Of course, that's Heal Companion also. But all the heal spells I'd like to be together, I'd like all of the destruction spells to be together. restore agility, restore fatigue, restore health, intelligence, personality. That's all the restores. Alright, I'm pretty convinced. We got agility, intelligence, personality. Let's just clean up the rest, shall we? We'll have endurance, strength, and luck. Blight disease. So we have both of these. We have I think the Imperial cult versions of them. And there's also a book that I wanted to read. This is the 36 Lessons of Vivec, Sermon 13. And it's a skill book. It gives our alteration skill increased to 33. So it's 2 pages, pretty short. Let's just go ahead and get through it. 36 Lessons of Vivec, Sermon 13. These were the days of Resdania, when Shimmer and Dwemer lived under the wise and benevolent rule of the Almsivi. So Chimer, or Chimmer, or Changed Mer, is the name for Dunmer before they were cursed and became Dark Elves. So they were gold. And you can see this on Vivec, who's half gold and half the normal Dark Elf color. Alright. And their champion, the Hortator, which I think is our previous life. When the gods of Veloth would retreat unto their own to mold the cosmos and other matters, the Hortator would at times become confused. Vivec would always be there to advise him. Okay, so the 36 Lessons of Vivec is of course written by Vivec, and Vivec always looks really cool and nice in these because he's writing his own propaganda. At the time, the Hortator, or the Neverine, which you're the reincarnation of, Vivec was like your assistant. You know, he's like your Lancelot. He was your brother in arms that was kind of helping you out. It's not to say that, you know, Vivec wasn't also very smart and was an accomplished poet and swordsman, but he's also kind of a scoundrel. He's a roguish type, like a Han Solo. And, yeah, I don't know. I just think we have to be very wary whenever Vivec's sermons talk about how great Vivec is relative to other of the tribunals. It's always very biased in favor of Vivec. Vivec would always be there to advise him, and this is the second of the 3 lessons of ruling kings. The secret syllable of royalty is this: you must learn this elsewhere. The temporal myth is man. The magical cross is an integration of the worth of mortals at the expense of their spirits. Surround it with the triangle, and you begin to see the triune house. It becomes divided into corners, which are ruled by our brethren, the 4 corners, Baal, Dagon, Malk, Sheog. So these are shortened versions of the Daedra. Sorry, maybe that's not Dagon. Malakath, Sheogorath. Rotate the triangle and you pierce the heart of the beginning place, the foul lie, the testament of the irrefutable for a span. Above them all is the horizon where only one stands, though no one stands there yet. It is proof of the new. It is the promise of the wise. Unfold the whole, and what you have is a star, which is not my domain, but not entirely outside my judgment. The grand design takes flight. It is transformed not only into a star, but a hornet. The center cannot hold. It becomes devoid of lines and points. It becomes devoid of anything, and so becomes a receptacle. This is its usefulness at the end. This is its promise. The sword is the cross, and Almsivi is the triune house around it. If there is to be an end, I must be removed. The ruling king must know this, and I will test him. I will murder him time and again until he knows this. I am the defender of the last and the last. To remove me is to refill the heart that lay dormant at the center that cannot hold. I am the sword. I am the star. Shet, the mechanism that allows the transformation of the world. Ours is the duty to keep the compromise from being filled with the Black Sea. The Sharmot sleeps at the center. So Sharmot is the fake Hortator, the fake Nevermarine reincarnation. He cannot bear to see it removed, the world of reference. This is the folly of the false dreamer. This is the amnesia of dream, or its power, or its circumvention. This is the weaker magic, and it is barbed in venom. This is why I say the secret to swords is the mercy seat. It is my throne. I am become the voice of Almsivi. The world will know me more than my sister and brother, by which he probably means Elamextria and Sothasil? Yeah, I think it's Sothasil. Been a while since I played. I am the psychopomp. I am the killer of the weeds of Veloth. Veloth is the center that cannot hold. Am is the plot. Shet is the ending. And I am the enigma that must be removed. These are why my words are armed to the teeth. The ruling king is to stand against me and then before me. He is to learn from my punishment. I will mark him to know. He is to come as male or female. I am the form he must acquire, because a ruling king that sees in another his equivalent rules nothing. This is what was said to the Hortator when Vivek was not whole. The ending of the words is Almsivi. Okay, so lots to unpack there. It could just be intentionally obfuscated by Vivek as a political tool. It could also be, hearing the instructions for the Neverine to go and meet Vivek and perhaps to fight him in the future. This is what was said when Vivek was not whole. We don't necessarily know what that means. It could mean before he was transformed into half Chimmer, half Dunmer. We could interpret it as a mental health thing or him going crazy. Lots to unpack there, but that's Lessons of Vivek for you. Always good to get at least one lesson a day. We read some of these before. Yeah. This is lesson 21, the scripture of the wheel. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th, 8th. Secret tower within the tower is the shape of the only name of God, I. Okay, so some stuff for people born under the tower sign there. Not us, we were born under the sign of the mage. Okay, so we need to basically put our recall up. And we need to go back to the place that we marked. Check our surroundings first. Make sure everything's good. We can pick up some of the things we dropped because they're too heavy to carry. Although, in retrospect, I should have teleported with those things that were very heavy because the teleportation magic doesn't care how heavy something is. And we could have sold it at the city. I'm not sure what this is. We're in the wilderness, so we might as well be armed. And we're going to approach things with as much fatigue reserves as possible. Gorgeous Dwemer ruin out there. What a pretty game. After all these years, 2002. I don't even know if there's a door for this. Oh, here it is. Oh, we're getting fight music. So Lillipund. Oh, it's a blighted cliff racer. Jesus Christ. I don't want to fight blighted cliff racer. So we have not been here. Pusillanimund yet. We need to level up personality, endurance, and willpower. Is the level ups we're going for today. This will be aided by our medium armor skill and our spear skill. Hey, are you friendly? I don't think you've been introduced, Outlander. I am Mael Brolis. How can I help you? Interesting. What is your job? I'm a spell sword. I make war with spell and sword, combining the arts of the College of Restoration, College of Alteration, and the College of Destruction with training in medium armor style, block defense, and the offensive disciplines of axes, blunt weapons, and long blades. I rely on enchanted weapons and enchanted armors to further augment my offensive and defensive abilities. This balance of steel and spell, offense and defense, mobility and protection is the signature of the spell sword. Yeah, it seems like a great class. many character archetypes or player character builds eventually end up as a spell sword. Damak was the king among the Dwemer, the hero and friend of Neverrar. King among the Dwemer and a friend of the hero Neverrar before the war began. He served with Neverrar on the First Council and died with Neverrar at Red Mountain. Hireling of the Great House Tilvani. Okay. If you're heading into the backcountry, always carry Restore Health, Restore Fatigue, Cure Disease, and Cure Blight potions. Yeah, do we have Cure Blight potions? I guess you can cure ourselves, so we don't really need them. At first, it seemed the fuss about the Neverine prophecy was just silly superstition, but I learned that the Dunmer have been waiting for Lord Neverrar to come back for centuries, the Incarnate, they call it. Every few years, an Ashlander appears, and the tribes call him the Incarnate, and then the temple goes out, hunts him down, and reveals him as a fake. Why does the temple worry so much about it? Well, I guess they're looking for it, also. Little secret, talk to everyone. Talk is cheap, ask questions. You don't ask, you never learn. Okay. Ancient ring called Moon and Star, or One Clan under Moon and Star, as the Ashlanders call it, was forged for the hero Neverrar by one of the Dwemer sorcerer priest Kerganak's smiths, and blessed by the Daedra Lord Azura. The ring gave Neverrar supernatural powers of persuasion and indisputable proof of identity, since any other who tried to wear the ring would be killed instantly. I feel like this is part of a quest. Let me see. Where do I access my quests again? Is it J for journal? It is. Options, quests. Okay, so that's in Vivek. Fighters Guild. Oh, from Solitude in the South Wall of Mora. Okay, that's not here. Similar name, but not here. Okay, a Nord Bandit. Hela Ode. Okay, Pilatus. Not sure where that is, but it doesn't seem here. Lives in Air Australian, just northwest of Nissus. Speak with him and convince him to join the council. That's not the quest we were on, though, right now. We're on a Mage's Guild. Oh. Rhaenys asked me to convince Laerar Breloth to join the guild. If he cannot be convinced, I must kill him. To get to Silipund, I should leave Balmora east. That's Fort Mumoth. Okay. So this is it. Edom or stronghold to the south. If I head north on the path between the hills, Silipund will be on my left just before the path splits. Okay, so we're looking for Laerar Breloth. Okay, well, let's save. I hope we don't have to kill him. That's a trap door. We don't have... Okay. We don't have a probe to untrap it. Alright. Well, that's some damage. Well, luckily we're leveling up willpower, so we can just heal that back. Restore health. Okay. Hey, Breloth. How you doing, buddy? Don't think you've introduced. I'm Breloth. How can I help you? Acrobat and hireling of the Great House Telvanni. This is a Telvanni location. We're small, sharp, and smart. We love wild creatures, wild beauty, wild life. Unlike our dull cousins, we're not very polite, but we don't have to be, since we shoot straight and run like the wind. Nice. I wonder if he's also in the Thieves Guild. And they have sworn to exterminate the upstart Outlander newcomers. I'm an acrobat. As an entertainer, my job is to amaze and amuse my patrons, but in my more discreet vocation as a second story man and connoisseur of treasures and secrets, my job is to come and go without attracting notice and to effectively discourage pursuit when I am noticed. Running, swimming, or leaping, my art is to leave my less agile, less swift pursuit behind. Nice. That'd be a fun build. Acrobat. Some common pants and shirts, not even worth carrying. I guess if you come in here just as a Mages Guild member and kill this guy, those two people will attack you before you leave. Nail. Okay. It's pretty normal. I wonder what this is. Is it just a... place where people hang out? I'm a monk. In mind and spirit, I am a student of the hidden mysteries, of the unseen world that lies behind the objects and ideals of everyday life. In body, I am a student of the ancient martial arts, patterned on the rain of sand fighting styles of elsewhere. I pursue hand-to-hand and unarmored self-defense, because what you don't have, you cannot lose. Yeah, big mood for me. I also train with the blunt weapons called staffs, because even the poorest peasant can own a staff. Yeah, that's awesome. Monk would be a really cool playthrough. You might want to do that. Of course, dealing with hand-to-hand combat in this game is pretty rough. It's very difficult to get a lot of the content done. Reflections on cult worship. We already own this. Yeah. So we read this last time. Still a great book. Oh, here he is. Alright. I don't believe I've seen a Dark Elf with such a grand outfit in some time. Can I help you? sorcerer and hireling of the Great House Tilvani. So he seems like he's in charge in here. I don't think Northwinds on the 15th will be much of a reverent holiday this year. Traditionally a time to thank the gods for a good harvest and mild winter. There wasn't much good to say about this year's harvest. It could be much worse, I suppose. If you do the crime, pay the fine. Don't do the time. You might think a little hard labor isn't a bad price to pay, but while you're breaking rocks for the Empire, you lose the edge of your useful skills, and it takes a long time to get back to where you were before. Sad. I feel like this is pretty apt advice. Buy from the merchants and traders who like you. You get better prices. Members of your own factions usually like you the best. Okay, we know that one. Imperials worship powerful spirits, but are they the right spirits? They are powerful, but are they good? We used to worship the Daedra, but now we worship the true gods, the Tribunal, and the Daedra serve the true gods in fear and humility. I don't know about that. I think that the Tribunal wants you to think that, but if we came up with, literally talking to Azura, I don't think that relationship is, in the Tribunal's favor, exactly. I think the Tribunal are surviving at the edges of the god's influence, or maybe they just don't care that much. I am a sorcerer, though my mastery of special disciplines of the College of Conjuration and my private studies of the Outer Realms and their powers and principalities, I have learned to summon and command their denizens to do my bidding. I do these things for coin, or to suit my own interests. I am also an enchanter, enchanting items for my own use, and for the use of others. My skill with enchantments also makes me more efficient in using enchanted items that I collect on my research expeditions. Yeah, I want that. I want my enchantment skill to go up. Sorcerer. The Ashlanders have a prophecy that one day a reincarnation of a legendary hero, Neverard, will unite the Dunmer against the invaders and restore the ancient Dark Elven nation. But the Tribunal Temple says this is a false and profane superstition, maybe because they don't want the Neverard to come back. Maybe they did something to the Neverard and they don't want him to come back. And the Ordinators deal mercilessly with those who profess such beliefs. The Imperial cult regards blood vampires as destructive monsters to be hunted and destroyed. However, romantic notions of noble, virtuous vampires persist in Imperial traditions, and vampires are thought to pass unrecognized in the Mages Guild and the Imperial aristocracy. Yeah, they do. We know that for a fact. Alright, let's join us. If I agree to join, will you leave me to my research? Fine then. I will join the Mages Guild next time I am in Valmora. Ha! Okay. Wow. That was easy. Journal has been updated. Okay. Well, that was easier than I thought. If he has any good books. Brothers of Darkness. I forget if we've read this one before. By Perline S.E. As their name suggests, the Dark Brotherhood, which is the Assassin's Guild of the Empire, and a joinable faction for the next two games in the Empire and in Skyrim. And some of the best storylines in the entire Elder Scrolls series is the Dark Brotherhood stories. As their name suggests, the Dark Brotherhood has a history shrouded in obfuscation. Their ways are secret to those who are not themselves brothers of the Order. Brother is a generic term. Some of their deadliest assassins are females, but they are often called brothers as well. How they continue to exist in shadow, but be easily found by those desperate enough to pay for their services, is not the least of the mysteries surrounding them. The Dark Brotherhood sprang from a religious order, the Morag Tong. Oh, that's the Morrowind thing. Are we sure that this author is correct? This might have been retconned in other games. When we go into the history of the Dark Brotherhood in the Oblivion and Skyrim storylines. Okay. The Morag Tong, which we may join later, during the Second Era, the Morag Tong were worshippers of the Daedra spirit Mephala and Vivek, through Mephala. who encouraged them to commit ritual murders. In their early years, they were as disorganized as only obscure cultists could be. There was no one to lead the band, and as a group, they dared not murder anybody of importance. This changed with the rise of the Night Mother. Okay, so a very pro-Dark Brotherhood narrative is being bandied about here. I'm not sure how accurate it is. All leaders of the Morag Tong, and then afterward the Dark Brotherhood, have been called the Night Mother. I think the Morag Tong would beg to differ on that point, but we will see when we join them. Whether the same woman, if it is even a woman, has commanded the Dark Brotherhood since the Second Era is unknown, so we meet the Night Mother in the next games, which I look forward to. Has commanded the Dark Brotherhood since the Second Era is unknown. What is believed is that the original Night Mother developed an important doctrine of the Morag Tong, the belief that, while Mephala does grow stronger with every murder committed in her name, certain murders were better than others. Murders that came from hate pleased Mephala more than murders committed because of greed. Murders of great men and women pleased Mephala more than murders of relative unknowns. We can approximate the time this belief was adopted with the first known murder committed by the Morag Tong. In the year 324 of the Second Era, the potentate Versidue Shie was murdered in his palace in what is today the Elsewhere Kingdom of Senshal. In a brash move, the Night Mother announced the identity of the murderers by painting Morag Tong on the walls in the potentate's own blood. Okay. Very shocking story. Never quite heard that one before. Previous to that, the Morag Tong existed in relative peace, more or less like a witches' coven, occasionally persecuted but usually ignored, in remarkable synchrony at a time when Tamriel, the arena was a fractured land. Remarkable synchrony at a time when Tamriel, the arena, was a fractured land, the Morag Tong was outlawed throughout the continent. Every sovereign gave the cult's elimination its highest priority. Nothing more was officially heard of them for 100 years. It is more difficult to date the era when the Morag Tong re-emerged as the Dark Brotherhood, especially as other guilds of assassins have sporadically appeared throughout the history of Tamriel. Yeah, see, this doesn't seem to take into account Morrowind at all. The first mention of the Dark Brotherhood that I have found, I think this academic is not seeing the whole picture. Perline Assi. That Assi might be a Hammerfell name for Redguards, or it could be a Khajiit. The first example that they include is from Khajiit history. So Assi might be a Khajiit name. Maybe a Khajiit scholar is writing this. All right. The first mention of the Dark Brotherhood that I found is from the journals of the Blood Queen Arhamea of Helgath. She spoke of slaying her enemies by her own hand, or if necessary, with the help of the Night Mother and her Dark Brotherhood, the secret arsenal my family has employed since my grandfather's time. Arli Mehira wrote this in Second Era 412, so one could surmise that the Dark Brotherhood had been in existence since at least 360 if her grandfather had truly made use of them. Some nice academic journalism there. The important distinction between the Dark Brotherhood and the Morag Tong was that the Brotherhood was a business as much as it was a cult. Rulers and wealthy... So we're already making a distinction between the Brotherhood and the Morag Tong, Dark Brotherhood being seen as newer, but still ignoring the fact that the Morag Tong still exists and is alive and well in Morrowind, going just fine, worshipping Mephala same as ever, and under Vivek's rule. But I guess you'd have to be from Morrowind to really know that. It's important to note for kids or anyone who grows up in the modern era, before the internet, you really did not have good access to many of the sources internationally that you do now from the internet. So if you wanted to go and research a country's archives, you needed to usually go to that country. They wouldn't often be available, and I'd argue that they still aren't truly available outside of that, which is why learning different languages is such a key aspect of scholarship. Is you literally have access to new information. Speaking of which, I should brush up on my Spanish. Maybe I'll go to a Spanish country. Maybe Spain. Now that COVID is over, or kind of over, it's having a resurgence in this summer. It's pretty worrying. Okay, let's move on. All right. Rulers and wealthy merchants used the order as an assassin's guild. The Brotherhood gained the obvious rewards of a profitable enterprise, as well as the secondary benefit that rulers could no longer actively persecute them. They were needed. They were purveyors of an essential commodity. Even an extremely virtuous leader would be unwise to mistreat the Brotherhood. Not long after Alhamera's journal entry came perhaps the most famous series of executions in the history of the Dark Brotherhood. The Colovian Emperor Potentate Saravan Kothorak and every one of his heirs were murdered on one bloody night in Sun's Dawn in 430. Within a fortnight, the Colovian dynasty crumbled to the delight of its enemies. For over 400 years, until the advent of the warrior Emperor Tiber Septim, chaos reigned over Tamriel. Though no comparably impressive executions have been recorded, the Brotherhood must have grown fat with gold during that integrum. The integrum. Yeah. It's interesting to read some history that's pre-Tiber Septim. I'll say that. The Dark Brotherhood has no shortage of business opportunities in accounting. I have been informed it is the Brotherhood's favorite euphemism for an execution. While they are officially... Okay, so she's been informed that this is the Brotherhood's favorite euphemism for an execution. I don't know if I should, say this kind of stereotype about, an academic who thinks that they really, have an inside look into, a darker world, and so that gives them the courage to write a piece on it, but they don't actually know very much about the secret society that they're, writing their paper on. But, it's a tempting thing to feel special as an academic when you're writing papers. Academics can be kind of lonely people. That's, again, another generalization, but, there's a kernel of truth in all of these. So someone told her that the Brotherhood's favorite euphemism for an execution is an accounting, and she just can't wait to put that in her paper to, really show off how cool she is. Or he. Perlin? Might be, I don't know. He or she. Well, they are officially considered an unlawful organization in every corner of the Empire. Like the Thieves Guild, they are almost universally tolerated. Yeah, that's pretty common in this society, and also just in general in fantasy games. They have the Chronicles of Nuke left. Okay, I think we read this already. I'm just going to put the pages on the screen in case anyone wants to pause. Yeah. Close. Vampires 1. I don't know if we've read the Vampires one, but it's only one page, so let's just read it again real quick. The violent antipathy of Morrowind culture towards necromancy ensures that the vampires are virtually unknown in Morrowind. The temple does not acknowledge the existence of Western vampire hunting orders. Nonetheless, interviews with the temple officials persuade me that the Dunmer of Morrowind are experienced and knowledgeable in the handling of these menaces. On the other hand, they freely admit that even a large community of vampires might easily escape detection in the remote wastelands or in the subterranean labyrinths of abandoned strongholds and wizard towers. The Ash Vampire of Ashlander legend is not undead. Sorceries and blessings affecting the undead reportedly have no effect on these creatures. No specimen, so that's good to know for fighting them. No specimen has ever been examined, and no reference have ever linked these legends with the known clans of Tamrielic vampires. Vardenfell's 3 known bloodlines differ greatly in their approach to prey. The Quara bloodline features an exceptional strength and endurance and attacks in a state of ecstatic frenzy. Undoing vampires are potent spellcasters seeking to hypnotize their victims before feeding, while the swift and agile Burn clan vampires prefer stealth and ambush. Again, we see this the high fantasy triangle between fighter, thief, or rogue, and mage, or sorcerer. So yeah, one of the foundational elements of the fantasy genre: fighter, thief, mage. First poisoning the victim with a bite, then withdrawing to a safe distance, returning to feed only when the prey has weakened. It is supposed that vampirism is contracted from wounds received from a vampire. Since few victims survive vampiric attacks or feedings, the process of contracting the disease is little understood. Some have suggested that victims may willingly submit themselves to the will of a vampire, but no real evidence of this exists. We might do that later. Then we'll provide some evidence. During the incubation phase lasting up to 72 hours, the vampirism disease exhibits no symptoms and may be cured by general spellcraft or cult blessings. Okay, so you can cure it pretty easy if you get to a temple. Or can cast Cure Disease yourself. However, during incubation, some victims have reported sleep disturbances and troubling dreams. After symptoms are exhibited, however, the disease is incurable and irreversible. Alright. The Wild Elves. Alright, this is another one-page book. We'll see if we can get through it. On Wild Elves by Kirjo Chorvak. This might be an orc author. In the wilds of most every province of Tamriel, descended philosophically, if not directly, from the original inhabitants of the land, are the Ayleids, commonly called the Wild Elves. So in Oblivion, they go into this much more in the next game. While three races of elven stock, the Altmer, or High Elves, the Bosmer, or Wood Elves, and the Dunmer, or Dark Elves, have assimilated well into the new cultures of Tamriel, the Ayleids and their brethren have remained aloof toward our civilization, preferring to practice the old ways far from the eyes of the world. I don't even know if they're still around in Oblivion, to be honest. It's interesting that they're being represented at the time of writing. We don't have a date for this book, but it's still being around. The Wild Elves speak of a variation of Old Cyrodiilic, opting to shun Tamrielic. Interesting, Cyrodiilic. Cyrodiil is the Empire's homeland in the very center. To shun Tamrielic, which I guess is the common language of Tamriel, and separating themselves from the mainstream of Tamriel even further than the least urbanized of their elven cousins. In temperament, they are dark-spirited and taciturn. Though this is far from the point of view of outsiders, or Pelani in their tongue, and doubtless they act differently within their own tribes. Indeed, one of the finest sages of the University of Gwyn, Gwilym, was a civilized Ayleid elf, Terhain Frey. First era 2790 to second era 227, whose published work on wild elves suggests a lively, vibrant culture. Frey is one of the very few Ayleids to speak freely on his people and religion, and he himself is said the nature of the Ayleid tribes is multi-hued, their personalities often wildly different from their neighboring tribes. Yeah, I mean, this sounds like studying Native American culture is like people want it to be all one thing, but it's not. Humans are extremely diverse in every location and time period, which makes it very difficult to write history where you just say, like, the French are like blank, or the Germans are like blank, or the English are like blank, or Americans feel blank, or Americans are like this. And there are some, like, overlaps, but the more granular your research gets, and quite frankly, the older I get and the more mature I get in my studies, the more those kinds of phrases lose their value to me. Okay. Frey T. Nature of Ayleidelic Poesy, page 8, University of Gwyn Press, 2nd edition. Second era 12. It's good to see a full citation like a full, like, academic literary citation. That's like a really nice footnote to put in here. Seeing stuff like this warms my heart. I guess I'm just a nerd like that. All right. Like any alien culture, wild elves are often feared by the simple people of Tamriel. The Ayleids continue to be one of the greatest enigmas on the continent of Tamriel. They seldom appear in the pages of written history in any role, and then only as a strange sight a chronicler stumbles upon before they vanish into the wood. When probable fiction is filtered from common legend, we are left with almost nothing. The mysterious ways of the Ayleids have remained shrouded since before the First Era, and may well remain so for thousands of years to come. And indeed they do. It's very hard to track down any Ayleid stuff in Skyrim, and in Oblivion we go traipsing through Ayleid ruins all the time, but they're seen as this, like, lost empire. It's now been completely taken over by... here's all the biographies of Baron Zaya. I really want to read all those. Invocation of Azura. Yeah, I think we've read this before. Azura is the only Daedra princess that I have ever worshipped who seems to care about her followers. Mulikbal wanted my mind, Boethia wanted my arms, and Nocturnal perhaps my curiosity. Azura wants all of that, and our love above all. Not our abject slavering, but our honest and genuine caring in all of its forms. It is important to her that our emotions be engaged in her worship, and our love must also be directed inward. If we love her and hate ourselves, she feels our pain. I will for all time have no other mistress. Oh, that's cute. What a good sapphic sentiment there. I mean, Azura's cool, you know? You could argue that Azura's the hero of this story. She's certainly our patron for Morrowind. Azura's a great Daedra. Overview of gods of worship in Tamriel. By Brother Hedgefield. Brother Hedgefield is an associate scribe at the Imperial University Office of Introductory Studies. Gods are commonly judged upon the evidence of their interest in worldly matters. A central belief in the active participation of deities in mundane matters can be challenged by the reference to apparent apathy and indifference on the part of gods during times of plague or famine. So, if the gods do, care about us, they certainly don't do lots of stuff during plague or famine. It's also very human to judge gods by how they help us or hurt us. It's kind of selfish from our perspective. From intervention in legendary quests to manifestations in common daily life, no pattern for the gods of Tamriel's activities is readily perceived. The concerns of gods in many ways may seem unrelated or at best unconcerned with the daily trials of the mortal realm. The exceptions do exist, however. Many historical records and legends point to the direct intervention of one or more gods at times of great need. Many heroic tales recount blessings of the divinity bestowed upon heroic figures who worked or quested for the good of the deity or the deity's temple. Some of the more powerful artifacts in the known world were originally bestowed upon their owners through such a reward. It has also been reported that priests of high ranking in their temples may on occasion call upon their deities for blessings or help in time of need. The exact nature of such contract and the blessings bestowed is given to much speculation, as the temples hold such associations secret and holy. This direct contact gives weight to the belief that the gods are aware of the mortal realm. In many circumstances, however, these same gods will do nothing in the face of suffering and death, seeming to feel no need to interfere. It is thus possible to conclude that we, as mortals, may not be capable of understanding more than a small fraction of the reasoning and logic such beings use. One defining characteristic of all gods and goddesses is their interest in worship and deeds. Deeds in the form of holy quests are just one of the many things that bring the attention of a deity. deeds in everyday life by conforming to the statutes and obligations of individual temples are commonly supposed to please a deity. Performance of ceremony in a temple may also bring a deity's attention. Ceremonies vary according to the individual deity. The results are not always apparent, but sacrifice and offerings are usually required to give any hope of gaining a deity's attention. So he's acknowledging that you can do that stuff that gets what you want, but it doesn't always work. So it's kind of mysterious. Can't be relied on 100%. While direct intervention in daily temple life has been recorded, the exact nature of the presence of a god in daily mundane life is a subject of controversy. A traditional saying of the Wood Elves is that one man's miracle is another man's accident. While some gods are believed to take an active part of daily life, others are well known for their lack of interest in temporal affairs. It has been theorized that gods do in fact gain strength from such things as worship through praise, sacrifice, and deed. It may even be theorized that the number of worshippers a given deity has may reflect on his overall position among the other gods. This, my own conjecture, garnered from the apparent ability of the larger temples to attain blessings and assistance from their god with greater ease than smaller religious institutions. There are reports of the existence... Okay, so this sets off some alarm bells for me. Is having more followers means more money and more access to resources. If they then claim that they can attain blessings and assistance from their god with greater ease than the smaller religious institutions, that might be for many other reasons than their god caring about them more. There's lots of closer, more mundane explanations to why that might occur before jumping to, well, your god is just more magic when they're worshipped more. Although this is a fantasy setting realm where you can literally touch a rock and get a spell. So maybe they have ways of measuring those that are more effective. All right, there are reports of the existence of spirits in our world that have the same capacity to use the actions and deeds of mortals to strengthen themselves as do the gods. Really? That's interesting. I wonder if the tribunal is among them. The understanding of the exact nature of such creatures would allow us to understand with more clarity the connection between a deity and the deity's worshippers. This person is very ambitious. He's trying to find out... Brother Hitchfield is trying to find out exactly what makes gods tick. That's a little dangerous. The implication of the existence of such spirits leads to the speculation that these spirits may even be capable of raising themselves to the level of a god or goddess. Yeah. Motsuo of the Imperial Seminary has suggested that these spirits may be the remains of gods and goddesses who throughout time lost all or most of their following, reverting to their earliest, most basic form. Interesting. That's a fascinating idea. Practitioners of the old ways say that there are no gods, just greater and lesser spirits. Perhaps it is possible for all three theories to be true. What a fascinating book. I love this stuff. Elder Scrolls is so good if you read the books. Okay, we should stop reading them. All right, that should do it for today. I'm going to call it here. We completed our mission for the Mages Guild. It was pretty easy. This person just swapped to the Mages Guild because they don't care who they work for. They just don't want to be bothered, and they want to be left to their research. And you know what? I can understand that. I can believe that wholeheartedly. Okay, that'll do it for me. I'm going to head off to bed, and I will see you guys later. Thank you for dropping by, and thank you for listening, as always.